Hello, General English students. Today we're going to be learning words 6 through 10. So just a reminder, here's our vocabulary standard. Today we're really working on the developing portion, which is identifies definition of vocabulary words. So we'll be working on definitions. For proficient, you'll need to be able to explain the meaning of a word and give examples of the word and explain how the word could apply in a given situation. And for exceeding, which we're all working towards as well, is to integrate vocabulary words into writing. So the work that you're going to be doing this week will have you doing all three of these components with these vocabulary words. But first I want to review the words from last week. So if you need to pause the video in order to help yourself recall the definitions, please do that. Because that practice of recall is important. So our first word is empathy. What do you remember empathy to mean? Empathy is understanding how someone else feels. How about executive? An executive is a person who is in charge of people in a company. Collision? The act of crashing into someone or something. How about dejected? Sad because of failure or loss. And fundamental. A basic, important part of something. So I hope you studied these words last week and know them well. These are the words for this week: conviction, linger, trudge, portly, and bustle. So here we go, conviction. So for each word, I'll show the definition from Learner's Dictionary, but then I'll also show what you could write in your notes. And if you need to pause the video in order to get that down, please do so. I would recommend adding these notes to the ones that you took last week. Now, the word conviction, we see here from the dictionary entry that conviction is a noun, and one clue that it's a noun is that it ends in T-I-O-N, and plural is convictions. And we also see how many definitions are there for conviction in this dictionary entry. There are two. So the first definition is the act of proving that a person is guilty of a crime in a court of law. So if somebody goes to court for a crime and they're convicted of that crime, that means they've been found guilty. We're actually not going to focus on this definition. We'll focus on definition number 2, which is a strong belief or opinion, or the feeling of being sure that what you believe or say is true, which is very similar to a strong belief or opinion. So that's the definition that we're going to use for this vocabulary word. So if you have religious convictions, then you strongly believe what you believe about that religious aspect, or deep personal convictions, a strong belief about what's right or wrong. It can also be used to speak with conviction, means you're speaking with confidence that you really believe that what you're saying is true. So here I have a picture of a confident speaker because she's speaking with conviction. She really believes that what she's saying is true and worth listening to. So maybe you'll associate conviction with confidence. And you see C-O-N, C-O-N, maybe that can help you remember. Conviction is a strong belief. Our next word is linger. So take a look at this dictionary entry. Maybe pause it for a minute. What do we know about the word linger? So we can see that linger is a verb, which is an action word, and there are different forms of the verb, which makes sense because verbs can change depending on how you use them in the sentence. So we have lingers, lingered, lingering. We also have two definitions here. So the first definition is to say somewhere beyond the usual or expected time, or to continue to exist as time passes. So we could also define it as to leave slowly or hesitantly, which kind of fits along with these two definitions anyway. To stay somewhere beyond the usual or expected time could involve leaving slowly or hesitantly. So you can write down any one of these three definitions. This is the definition that'll appear on Quizlet. So if we look at the sample sentences, the tourists didn't linger very long. That means they didn't stay very long in whatever area they were at. Or she lingered at the art exhibit. So she stayed at the art exhibit longer than expected. Oh, and I forgot to jump down at 2b. It says to remain alive while becoming weaker. So the example, he was very ill, but he lingered on for several more months. So he stayed alive beyond what was expected. So for the definition, or for the picture for linger, I have a picture of a skunk here, because the smell of a skunk can linger. Long after the skunk is gone, that smell stays around. It's very slow to leave. Our next word is trudge. If you look at this dictionary entry, what do you know about trudge? So we see here we have two definitions of trudge, and they're very separate here in the dictionary because one is a verb and one is a noun. But you'll see that the definitions are very closely related. So trudge is to walk slowly and heavily because you're tired or working very hard. It can also mean a long, slow walk that makes you tired. So it can either be the action of walking slowly, or it can be the walk itself. So our definition, we're going to go with the verb form, to walk slowly with heavy steps. So for example, I was trudging through the snow. And if you think about walking through deep snow, that's slow, hard work that can be very tiring. But it doesn't have to be something that's really tiring. Like if someone's dejected, remember dejected from last week, very sad about something, they might be trudging along or walking very slowly, maybe with their head hung and slouched shoulders. That can be trudge as well. So here's our picture, walking up a snowy hill. They can be trudging up the mountain. Because it's slow, hard walking. Portly. What do we know about portly from this dictionary entry? Okay, we see that portly is an adjective. So an adjective is a describing word. We could see portly or portliest as example or other forms of the word. This is a somewhat formal word, so you probably won't use it in regular conversation, but having a round and somewhat fat body. And I have that same definition over here. And typically I've heard portly used as description for men. I haven't really heard it used in describing women, but that's not to say it can't be used that way. So portly means a round, somewhat fat body. It's kind of a more formal way of saying fat. So I have a couple pictures here, kind of a chubby guy. I also found this book, The Portly Pig. So maybe that can help you remember the word portly, because you might think of pigs as being kind of fat, kind of rotund, round. So the portly pig. And then bustle. So we see here that bustle is a verb. And so far we have this one main definition that has two definitions under it. So for the verb, it means to move or go in a busy, hurried way. So she bustled around the kitchen getting ready for dinner. She's busy, she's hurried, she's moving all over the place. It can also mean to have a lot of busy activity, and it's often with the word with. So the pier is always bustling with people. That means there's a lot of people moving around and being active there. Bustle can also be a noun. So there's a lot of noisy or busy activity, so that's a thing. The countryside seems very quiet after the hustle and bustle of the city. And then there's also this third definition, which is a noun. We're not going to focus on this one, but it can also refer to a piece of clothing that worn back in the day by women under a skirt or dress to kind of poof it out. But we will be focusing on definitions 1 and 2. So to have a lot of busy activity is the verb, or commotion or energetic activity is the noun. So once again, the noun and the verb are very related. So if you have this idea of busy, hurried activity, you can use that either as a verb or a noun. So here's my picture. The hustle and bustle of the city. A lot of times many times, you'll see hustle with it, hustle and bustle. It's just a very busy, noisy, active, energetic place. So, here are the 5 words from today, and I just want to review them with you. So remember, conviction is a strong belief or opinion. Linger means to leave slowly and hesitantly. It can mean to stay longer than expected, to hang around for a while. Trudge is to walk slowly with heavy steps. Portly, having a round, somewhat fat body. And bustle, commotion or energetic activity. That can also be used as a verb as well. So, those are the vocab words for the week. If you have questions, please let us know. Happy learning!